term thinker. When you are being independent, newly independent, you just have to it's the failing thing again. You have to just do things and see, does this work? Does this not work? And that's where I'm at.
Just keep on doing it because the universe will recognize that and eventually they will reward you and you will be surprised and you will tell yourself, see?
That's why I love live shows, and that's why I am so passionate about being a performer.
What is up, cyberspace? Welcome back to your favorite podcast. This is DOUGBROCK Radio. Napapahinggan at napapanood sa paborito nyong YouTube channel, DOUGBROCK TV, Spotify, at lahat ng podcast streaming platforms worldwide. Sobrang nakakabulol kasi sobrang thank you lang din sa Spotify. We are recognized as top podcast for 2024. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching and streaming DOUGBROCK Radio podcast. And of course, for those streaming on other different platforms, thank you also guys. And yeah, it's another Sunday habit. This is gonna be Englishan. Kuya Dog's gonna be gonna have a bit of a difficult time, pero I don't think naman kasi she is really, really, really good to converse with. She is an artist, singer, songwriter. Ladies and gentlemen, Lara Andalio.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lara. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you.
Thank you for doing your sound trip episode, and thank you for, being my guest in the podcast. Of
course.
So how are you? How are you lately?
I'm good. I mean, I'm in the Philippines, so how can I not be?
You're home?
Yeah, motherland.
Yep. When did you arrive?
December 2.
Okay.
So literally on Tuesday.
A week ago?
Yeah.
About a week ago.
Oh, true. Damn.
And then you've been working since then?
Yeah.
Like the other day, like you're just here 3 days and then you're shooting already?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you arrived December 2 from Australia?
Mm-hmm.
You're from Sydney, right?
Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, Australia.
Born and raised.
But you're Filipino.
Pure-blooded Filipino.
100%.
Yeah.
But you were born and raised in Australia. So, did your parents met in Australia already? Or?
No, they met in college, you guys would call it, at like 18 years old. And they've been in Australia for like 30 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they moved there and then they had you.
Yes.
Okay. Before we go to your music, I think I want to know more about how did Lara grew up being a Filipino in a foreign country.
Yeah.
Different culture, like 360-degree different from being a
very,
Filipino.
very different. And I have this conversation a lot with my parents as an adult now because I started to realize my parents grew up in the Philippines, obviously, surrounded by people that look like them, people that have the same values, morals, ethics, whereas I've the complete opposite. I was hardly around Filipinos. And when I would meet another Filipino, it would be like almost like a gem, like, oh my God, like another Filipino, like a treasure chest, you know what I mean? And it was in those like little moments that I would feel that kind of connection. Like I've always had a really strong connection to like my Pinoy roots. And that is obviously because of my parents, and they've been such proud Filipinos, even back home. But it's definitely interesting being in a country where everyone doesn't look like you and how that changes your perspective on yourself, how you move in the world, and how you value yourself. Because that's been a big thing that I had to overcome with time and being a kid and a teenager to now being like a woman and what values I have. Yeah.
I bet it's like difficult, like being in Australia, for sure you have a language at home and then you have to learn different languages, plus you need to speak in Australian in English.
Exactly. Like I kind of mentioned to you earlier, I went to a school that their kind of theme was unity in diversity. So it was meant to bring different kids of different backgrounds together. That's why my parents decided to send me there over a Catholic school, because they were tossing up between the two. But I know that they definitely wanted me to feel that sense of belonging. So that was their attempt at hoping that would happen. But at the same time, we had to learn languages. So I learned Italian, Chinese, and like you said, like I was learning English as well, while Tagalog was being spoken to me at home. And from when I was born, everyone's speaking Tagalog, right?
Yeah.
So I was very comfortable and confident with Tagalog until I started learning the other language. Yeah. So much so that when I was 4 or 5 years old, I came home and asked if I was Italian. And that's when my parents go, we need to bring her back to the Philippines ASAP. She needs to know where
That
she's
she's
from.
a Filipino.
Yeah. So that was
That
definitely
confused you.
definitely confusing. That's
as a
where a
young
lot of
girl.
my identity, belonging, insecurities kind of came from.
Is there like a lot of bullying? I know Australia is in like part of the Pacific, but being like definitely
Yeah.
an Asian, how is
Yeah.
it like growing up in Sydney?
Oh, yeah, I definitely experienced bullying. And I think the hard part about it now as an adult, because I didn't really tell my parents, because I didn't want them to think that they made the wrong decision by sending me there or coming here. And like for an example, in kindergarten, do you guys have kindergarten
Yes.
here? So I was 5 years old and I was in the girls' bathroom and these girls were like pointing at me in the corner, like pulling their eyes, being like ching chong, ching chong. They're making like Chinese jokes at me and I'd be like, I'm Filipino. Like they don't care and I'm like crying, you know what I mean? And obviously now looking back on it, I've got the resilience to talk about it. But at the time, like as a 5-year-old, like that's a lot to be experiencing. And then that's when you start to build these insecurities.
And that's almost every day, right?
Yeah. And then even to the food, right? Like I would bring adobo to school and people would smell the vinegar, like, you know, or Filipino food. And they're like, ew, like what is that? What's that smell? So I'd be shy to eat those foods as well. So then that's, again, like all these small things, they start to creep up on you and you start to think, do I even like this, that I'm who I am?
So you're building insecurities.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think I was still a kid, and then you go to being a teenager where as a female especially, you're already starting to build all these insecurities about how you look and, you know, boys liking you, but then you're Asian and, you know, there's all these things. But like I said,
There's
now
a lot of standards that is out of your control.
And it was when I came to the Philippines when I was 16. I think I was 16 or 17.
That's your first time.
No, I've been when I was, I think, 3, 4, probably after I made that Italian
Okay.
comment.
And then the next one was when you were 16.
And then 7.
Okay.
That's when I first went to Ilocos, and I
your province.
Yeah,
like.
I loved that trip. Like I felt so at home. And then around 16. But when I was 16, I think that was quite eye-opening for me, because by that time I had been in Australia for, the last time I was in the Philippines was 10 years basically, the 10-year gap. And like I said, I would have already had these insecurities picked up from Australia. And then when I came here, I'm like, oh, everyone is like the same height as me, firstly. Even my shoe size, like I could go to get like Nike shoes. And
So it's a thing in Australia?
Yeah, like
if your feet is small?
literally. So like, but even like maybe they won't have my size, or here it's like I'm the normal size.
Yes,
I am the everything about me.
There's more stocks for you.
Yeah, and just everything about me is more normal when I'm here, right? And that was definitely something I needed when I was 16.
That's
so just
liberating.
Like, yeah, that reassurance at that age. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us a bit more about that trip that you love the most. Like you understanding, oh, this is my home. Everything here is like I'm normal in here.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be different there because I'm still from here, right?
Yes.
And
I was just going to say, you just reminded me, because actually when I was 16 here, my mom, she got me into this label meeting when I was 16.
Okay.
And at the time, I hadn't met with labels in Australia from my understanding, right? And this is where the music side or the entertainment industry side came into it, because when I went to this record label, I also noticed everyone was quite fair-skinned, whereas in Australia, everyone wants to be tan, morena. And then when I went in and realized everyone's quite fair-skinned, that's when I started realizing like the beauty standards as well are different. And in this meeting, I had to sing. It was a very old school way of doing it. It was like in a boardroom, with the label heads and the choreographer. So I sang, I danced, I like all in that spot, and they
instant audition.
Yeah. I didn't even know what I was going into. Right, my mom had made this connection through other friends,
arranged things for you.
Yeah. So I didn't know what I was walking into, and they were saying, because they were quite interested, but in the sense of if I was to come here, I would need to be able to be molded into, because they were trying to form like a hiphop group, I guess, at the time. So they were saying, are you comfortable with that? And I just kind of straight away said, no, I want to do it my way. I want to be this type of artist. And I remember when I left that meeting, my mom was like, she's fine about it now, obviously, but she was like, do you know how many girls would have loved that opportunity and
very Filipino. Hi, tita.
Yeah. But I understand, because out here, like an opportunity like that can change your life. And I do understand that. But the label head at the time, he was saying, if you think you can make it outside of this country, then do that and then come back. Like if you think that. And I said, yeah, I do think that. Like I think I can make a name for myself with the way that I want to do it. But it's kind of crazy looking back on it now, because I was 16, and it like I said, as I keep growing up and aging, I'm starting to realize, wow, like Lara at 16 was quite resilient and like knew what she wanted already. I don't think I knew that at the time, but looking back, I'm like, yeah.
You know what you're saying? And turning down those possibilities just because you don't want to be part of a group, because you want to be an artist of your own.
Yeah.
You want to like express your music from your own.
Yeah.
You don't. And it kind of reminded me that like you're independent right now.
Yeah.
So, right?
Exactly.
It's a full circle moment.
Yeah.
And when you were 16 and your mom is arranging things for you, she already believed in you.
Oh, my parents have like,
wow.
Again, that's another thing that I'm so, so grateful for, because, coming to Australia, both my parents, I think, were naturally quite creative. They've never really got to show it because they were in survival mode to
work
to survive, make money so that they can support me and come to Australia and
live there.
Yeah. And for me to have resources, for me to have opportunities. So my parents always pushed me to follow wherever my interest was and my curiosity. So from 3, that's when I started violin. But I was a very curious child. Like I tried learning magic. I did fencing. Like I did so many things, but I think it made me a really good student. It made me a good learner, and I wasn't afraid to fail because I was always constantly trying new things. So failure wasn't really something I was ever really scared of. I knew it was just like what happens when you learn something new. You just have to get past the discomfort and then you
learn again.
You learn again. And what I wanted to say about my parents is they allowed me to follow my curiosity and they supported that. And I think I was lucky that I found music quite early. Like I was 3 years old.
Wow.
To start violin. And apparently they said that I came home and said I wanted to play violin. So then that's when they made it happen. Like they got me into violin lessons. And that in itself is so, I'm so blessed that my parents even had the financial stability to be able to allow me to just, if I want to try this, I can try it. That already.
If you want to take lessons, they'll enroll you.
Yeah.
If you need to play, if you want,
I need to buy a violin. Like they would. I can't even really remember in my childhood things that I wanted to do that they were like, no.
Wow.
Ever. Like they kind of just, even if it's things that maybe are more boyish or more this, like they didn't really have any, because I did skateboarding as well at one point. Like
there's no like boundaries in there.
No, but they could tell from a young age that I was super passionate about music and entertainment because I was a dancer as well before. So the the music and the creativity was always in me, and all they want is for me to follow what I want because they couldn't. Like my mom was in chorale at school and she was the one that pushed me into dancing. She actually tried to get me to go to dancing at 3 and I was a shy kid, so I didn't like it. But she just kept trying to get me in, and my dad wanted to be an architect and my mom would do ceramic painting. Like they were both creative, but they didn't get to express it. So I know that me having that passion, they just want me to do what I love, really.
Because technically you're living the things that they want to do.
Technically.
Right?
But I've never felt the pressure, which is why
That's
I
good.
think I've done well in the sense of I have friends who also have parents who moved to Australia, and I see when the pressure is put on them. When it's like, we came here so that you could have a better life, so you need to work hard, you need to... I never had the external pressure from my parents. I had the internal pressure from myself because I always had that like deep knowing and understanding that, like I mentioned, the gravity of me being in a first world country. I always had that, but I didn't have my parents pushing it on me, which I think made a very big difference.
Shout outs to you guys, and shout outs to all the parents who's, trying to be their kid's best friend. Not trying to be, the type of parents that pushes their kids to do things that they don't want to do. And then shout outs also to the parents who provides musical instruments to their artist kids, because we don't know what a piece of guitar, a piece of violin, or maybe a 2-week piano lessons can do to a person.
Seriously. Like I played violin for 10 years, so at 3 till 13 basically. And at the time when I quit violin, my mom was so devastated, obviously, because she came to my lessons as well. She, invested.
She always fetched you to lessons.
She invested in that, but I always remind her like now, because if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have probably found my way where I am now, right? So those 10 years of that instrument don't go to waste, you know what I mean? And I actually had this moment before I came to the Philippines actually, where so I've got nails on right now, but I didn't have nails on when I was at home before I came here. So I was able to play instruments. So I actually picked up my old violin and I hadn't picked it up in at least 8 years.
Wow. And then you played?
I can't play very well, but like it's crazy what the 10 years, like the muscle memory, like even just picking up the violin, like it all just kind of came back, even like the smell of the rosin on the bow, like it brings back memories. And then I was playing the piano and I had this feeling like I kind of want to learn violin again next year. So like I think that that's something that I want to explore again, because when music becomes work, I still love it. But it's things like that those like little joys like that, those little sparks that you need to follow, those creative sparks, like me just thinking, oh, do I want to play again? Yeah. Like you need to follow those things because they all lead somewhere, those curiosities.
Trust your gut.
Oh my
your
God.
Intuition. Everything about yourself. You should fully understand yourself, because yourself will crave for something maybe bigger, maybe new learning, maybe you want to try something else. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a bit of disrespecting yourself if you're not going to try the things that you want to try.
I definitely agree.
As long as, you're not going to hurt anybody, as long as it's not illegal, fucking do it, bro.
Yes, literally.
Okay, so you had that supportive parents. You learned music when you were 3. You played violin for 10 years and then 13. Tell me the story from, learning violin to eventually learning more types of, more instruments, and then eventually becoming, a musician that you are now.
So I started violin at 3, and before I was born, my mom was playing me jazz music in the womb. So she was like, they were intentionally doing that. So when I picked up saxophone, I think I want to say, how old was I? 7. I don't know. I was quite young still. I picked up saxophone and I was in jazz band, and obviously saxophone is a jazz instrument, and that's where those like seventh chords and the essence of like R&B music as well comes into play because of the jazz influence in it. So I started doing jazz, and in jazz band, when you're playing saxophone, there's the freestyle element, right? So I was freestyling on sax, and that's where I think a bit more of the freedom, because violin was classical. I was just, you get the sheet music and you follow it, and that is what it is. It wasn't really me exploring what I want to play or what I want to create. So then once I got to saxophone, when I'm freestyling in a band, that's when I'm having more of that sense of self-expression in a way. It was like the first opening of the door. That's probably how I would word it. And then I picked up drums in grade 6. And then again, this is where I think the musicality and me going into dancing comes into play, because drums to me is like choreography, the coordination.
The 808s.
Exactly. And you start doing freestyling as well, like drum solos, right? So now I've got the
You're
drums.
flipping your sticks. So that's already a dance move.
Yeah, see? So I have that element. And then I was also studying musicianship and music theory alongside that.
All throughout this learning of changing different types of musical instruments, trying new things, both of your parents are supportive all throughout it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would say though, I was very good at the instruments. I think if I wasn't, it would sound pretty bad. Like somehow,
Lara, let's stop this. We love you, but
exactly, because I would practice a lot as well, and neighbors wouldn't complain either. So
they see the potential, really.
Yeah.
Plus, the neighbors hears that it's good.
It's good.
Let her be.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be for the next 2 hours.
Yeah. So I learned all that, and then it was from that knowledge that I just picked up guitar and piano, because
When was this? Around?
Probably 10, 11 now. So now I'm fiddling with chord progressions. I'd search up a song that I like and sing it on the piano and like learn the chords. Same with guitar. And then that's when I go, okay, what if I just write a song to this chord progression instead of singing the song that I'm trying to play, right? So I started doing that. At the same time, I'm starting to do dancing like for longer periods of time. Like my training is starting to become more intense, and I trained in multiple styles of dance, but I really gravitated towards hip hop, and then we're dancing to hip hop and R&B. So then I go, if I like dancing to this music and I can make and play and write music, why can't I make music that I like dancing to? That's where that harmony and the cross kind of happened with the two, the harmony.
That's how you build a hybrid artist. No, like regularly, most of the people they learn guitar first,
yes,
or maybe drums,
yes,
or maybe piano.
Piano, yeah.
But you learned violin first, and then sax, and you were introduced like to classical music, jazz music, and then eventually you were into dancing. And then you get the chops, you get the beats, diba?
Yeah.
So you've become like really a talented artist because you know how to play what you're dancing.
Yeah.
And that's different. That's a vibe.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because in dancing, I was also singing but musical theater. So that's very different,
that's
right?
Theatrical.
So what would happen is my singing teacher at the time...
Sorry. All of this happening while she's learning different languages.
Exactly. Can you imagine how confused I was?
You're so bright. Anyways, going back. Your teacher.
My teacher... So I would sing musical theater songs or more... Not R&B, not pop, right? But I would sing like Les Mis, like songs from Les Mis... or Fame, the musical, but I would do runs. Like I would change it because I like doing it that way. But my vocal coach at the time was like, "You can't do that. Like, and you have to dictate more. Like because musical theater, you need to really enunciate the words, right?" But I would always just sing the way that I wanted to sing, and that's when I realized I went to this other vocal coach. when I was in LA. And actually my dad was the one who found this vocal coach. And after that one lesson I had with her, she was like, you should probably get a vocal coach in Australia that is tailored to what you're trying to make.
So you really sound like R&B by then. Back then. Right
Yeah.
away.
And then when I came home, that's when everything kind of changed and the vocals became different. Because I was already singing like that, but because I was trained to be a backup dancer. Like that was I was homeschooled in high school. So I did full-time dance. So that musical theater background is where the music, singing was really. Now that I'm saying it, my childhood was quite unique because I just mentioned I'm homeschooled as well.
And I think you found like being different at school, being different, being at 16, understanding that here in the Philippines, as a Filipino, I'm normal. But like the entertainment here, like the standards here is more of what is normal in Australia.
Yes.
And in Australia, I'm not that normal.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of people that looks like me, but then my complexion, that's what they want.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Yeah.
And you having that understanding already made you, I think, stand out. More of you being different in Australia made you more of an artist that showcase you being different. Like showcase your talent.
Yeah.
More than you being a Filipina.
Yeah.
More than you being an Asian.
Yeah.
And that's a motivation.
Yeah. Yeah, that is.
I don't know if I express it properly. I'm sorry because of my English. But I think I convey the message. I think it's like a booster. As a kid, I remember when I tried things that are different, really different, that I think stand out in my class.
Yeah.
Is when I was bullied. Is when like I remember the time when I tried to, if I may share this, that I tried to like learn how to drive a motorcycle is because I experienced this one time that I was bullied with other kids because they don't want to play with me and like rent a bike. Because I was slow in biking. So they're fast. And they like they rented all the bikes and I don't have bikes. And I remember I was about to cry going home. Like I don't have a bike. I don't want to sleep. Like I and then that's when I learned how to drive a motorcycle because it's faster.
Yeah.
So I think, we have like different motivations aside from the like external support.
Yeah.
And that's basically our own system.
Yes.
Deciding for ourselves.
Yeah.
And that made you like an artist that knows what you're doing.
Yeah.
The artist that's want to learn more things because you want to showcase more. And it is in a very good situation wherein you have the external factors that is very supportive.
Yeah. I think another thing is being in Australia and being not white, you really do have to prove yourself a lot more. So, and like I said, the work ethic was always there regardless. But growing up in the entertainment industry as well, because when I was doing dancing, I had an acting agent. So I was doing like commercials and ads and short films like as an actor. And, I learned from a very young age that I will be typecasted, which means, when I was doing short films or ads, I'm getting casted as the Korean or Asian daughter doing homework or, you know what I'm saying. So I kind of knew what my roles would be. I could never really be the other roles or, I'd go...
Just because of how you were presented physically.
Exactly. Or I'd go for a commercial where they needed a family. But of course they're going to have an Aussie looking family. But like, the thing is I would still show...
You're going to be the classmate of the...
Exactly. I learned quite fast that that's how it works. And I wasn't...
Like nobody told you that that's how it's gonna work.
No.
It's just you understanding things.
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly. But at the same time, when you think about that concept, I started doing that kind of stuff at like 11. when you're a child, basically a child, 11, trying to understand why you're not getting roles for that reason is like kind of sad, but also I had that awareness that I wasn't going to become a victim to that. Does that make sense? Then again, me saying all this is making me also realize the resilience that plays a part in all of this, because I was used to getting no a lot. I was so used to rejection, which I think has helped me so much in music, because similar to failure, not being afraid to fail, I'm also not afraid of being told no. You get 100 no's and 1 yes, and I know that.
You move on right away and then try another thing.
It's only about getting the right yes. You don't need to get 100 yeses, just the correct one.
And if you like look back like 10 minutes ago, before she decided to go to the Philippines, she's prepared with a lot of like,
Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, Excel spreadsheet of who to tap in, who to contact as an independent artist. We'll go to that a bit more later. But yeah, I respect the resilience. I respect how you, as a kid, doing those things. And I think it helped you a lot also become, no, let me go back. I think it's also hard because you don't have like a sibling to talk to. The things that is happening in practice, in school, maybe in the music studio, all these things. You don't have like someone do you have best friends?
I do now. I definitely do now. Back then it was a very different story. I always wanted an older sibling, but obviously that's not possible. But I always wanted an older sibling. I would tell my parents because I want them to make the mistakes and then I can learn from their mistakes and not make them. But yeah, I didn't have anyone really that I could confide in and talk to about what I was going through. And like I told you, I wasn't really telling my parents too much, and we've had that conversation now, like, why didn't you tell me? But, for those reasons that I mentioned earlier, I didn't really have that. And once I started dancing, I started having a more core friend group. But at the same time, growing up in the entertainment industry is very hard because, especially with girls, jealousy becomes a part of it too, because even the people you go to school with, right? Because I was homeschooled and we do like 50 hours of dancing a week, and then we do school kind of around it. It's like, as much as everyone is your friend, everyone is also trying to book the job or get the role.
Compete against you.
Yeah, so there's still this layer of you don't really know who to trust in a way. Whereas when you're at a normal school and people aren't doing, most people, when you're a kid, you just want to have fun with your friends at school, get through the day. Like, you're not really competing with your peers in that way, because then you'll go to college and then you're getting the jobs. But in entertainment, it's like the audition is from when you step into a room and you're meeting people. Like, that person could be the one that books you on this gig, or, so
everybody has an expectation.
Yeah, and everyone's always on. Yeah. Versus just having like their walls down as a person, and you know what I mean? It's not the same thing. And growing up as a teenager and having that, some could say it's like you get jaded from it in a way. But at the same time, I think it really prepared me for this industry. It's like, again, a blessing in disguise in a way.
And those experiences like made you like a better artist today. Yeah.
Definitely.
But going back, so you were dancing.
Yeah.
And then you had the realization that, why don't I make music that I want to dance into? Yeah. And then tell me more things about.
Yeah. Once I realized that, my vocal coach at the time was saying, I think I should start it here. So I actually have had 4 ankle surgeries as a dancer, where I was in a wheelchair and like had to learn how to walk again at the age
That's how hardcore you are at dancing?
Yeah, like
ankle injury?
Yeah, so I was training in ballet, tap, hip hop, jazz, like all the genres, right? And once I started doing point, which some people may know as the ballet shoe, where there's a wooden block and you're really on it. And I had an extra bone inside my ankle joint. So when I point, there's actually a bone jamming it, and my ligaments and tendons were not in the correct place, just the way I was born. But because of the grueling training that I do as a dancer, it was aggravating me a lot. So I had surgery to get that removed, and things moved around basically so that I could be better as a dancer. But what ended up happening is it took me around 13 months to fully recover from that surgery when it was only meant to take 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And I was on a full-time dance scholarship at this point too. So that took away, not being able to dance for that long. And I'm
more than a year.
Yeah, and 50 hours of dancing a week. That's like my whole life.
Yes.
So to pull that away from me, which was at the time, my most confident form of self-expression, right? At that time.
That's your art form that time.
Yeah. So when that was taken away from me, it was really hard for me. Even when I was in the hospital bed and the nurses were helping me take the first step, I was the first time I was just bawling, like crying. And they're like, are you okay? Like, is something wrong? And I wasn't even crying from the pain. I was crying at the fact that
you can't do dancing anymore.
I can't. Well, I couldn't even walk yet. I was taking my first step, and as someone who usually is moving every day to now, I can't even walk by myself, is too extreme.
That's your lowest point.
Yeah, and that made me go when the recovery took as long as it did. Then I was like, I should do music. Like, I have always loved music. Like, why don't I continue this? So in the bed that I was recovering in at home, it was in my room where I had my piano. And because I couldn't really walk yet, I would like wobble over. It was close enough that I could like move there by myself and like move myself onto the piano seat, and I would be just writing songs. And my vocal coach at the time, to go back to that, they were asking, what are my goals for the year, right? Like just at the start of the year, what do you want to achieve? And I thought that I was being ambitious by saying, I want to get a proper recording of a cover, right? And my teacher knew that I wrote music, and they were like, why do you want to just do a cover? You write music. Like, why don't we make sure you record and create your own songs this year?
Create originals.
Yeah, not just do covers. And at the time, I had no knowledge of how that's even possible. In all these movies, you see the recording artists and the recording studios, but I don't feel like there's a tangible way to just a path to how do you get there as someone who doesn't know anything, right?
Yeah.
So
and you were just broke. Your heart is broken because of dancing.
Yeah,
and that's your art form by that time.
Yeah. So when my vocal coach said that, that's when they started to kind of connect the dots of my friend. It was nothing crazy at the time. Like my vocal coach just said, "Oh, my friend's a producer. Like maybe you can meet up with him," and it just slowly started happening.
You're slowly starting to understand how music works.
Yes.
Because before, your background, aside from playing instruments, you know how to write, but your background is dancing through songs.
Yes.
So the next thing you know is how to do a cover of it.
Yes.
Because you're doing dance covers of song.
Yes.
So this was when you were introduced to creating your original music.
Yes, with like actual beats and production versus me, on the guitar or piano. Because as far as my songwriting went at the time was chords and then the lyrics and the melody. Nothing to do with the production and vocal production.
Mixing and mastering.
Yeah, I didn't even know what that was, or like how to record. All the different things that come with making music. And even at the time when I started releasing these songs, like they were still recorded in my room, like with a producer, but like they were recorded in my room, and we probably like mixed and mastered it the same day. Like it wasn't like revisions or anything. It's just like we'll do a song, we'll write a song and put it out. And that's what I did. So I put out
those were like melodic poets by that time.
Yeah. I would release them on SoundCloud.
Okay.
And this thing in Australia called Triple J Unearthed, which is for independent artists. I didn't know about it, but people just started being like, why don't you upload your song to this? And I would just follow what people would kind of suggest because I didn't know anything. But shortly after, that's when I was putting it on SoundCloud and doing these things, that's when
What year is this?
2016 now. 2016? Yeah, 2016, 2017. And that's when I started getting the songs going on radio, and it's confusing to me because I'm like,
I just uploaded it in SoundCloud.
yeah. I don't know.
Why is it in radio?
Like all these different things. It kind of escalated quite fast, and I didn't really understand because again, my background was the dance industry.
Okay, and then you tell us more about recording your first ever song. Like what was the experience? How did you write it? Did you write it?
Yes. Yeah, I wrote all my stuff.
Who produced it? Like the things about that first ever original of Lara and Dahlia.
Yeah, wow. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
But wait, by the way, that surgery was a blessing in disguise.
Exactly. I always say that. Because without that, I wouldn't have had the time. And
to pick your piano again.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay, going back. So tell us about that first ever record.
Yeah, I'm even struggling to think, but that was so long ago. So I was 16. It was still recorded in a home studio.
Okay.
So I never stepped into a real recording studio till I signed a deal.
Okay.
So it was still in a home studio. It was in Melbourne, Australia.
Okay.
Because my vocal coach's friend was in Melbourne, and I think we were doing like a family trip to Melbourne, and that's when we lined up. Let's go to the studio. I had already wrote the song.
Okay.
So from that point, I was writing everything myself. I was already doing that, so it wasn't like a new thing. I think the new thing was the recording process, and
for you.
yeah.
Like hearing your own vocals,
yeah.
hearing the music, the metronome.
Yeah. And even the production, right? Like I told you, that was its own whole process because I didn't realize. I think as an artist, it's a skill to, how do you say it? To articulate what you want in your production. I think that that's its own skill. And I learned that over time because, you can hear a song and you go, what do I like about this song? Do I just like this song, or is there something specific? Is it the BPM? Is it the 808 sound? Is it the way it's mixed? Like, what do I actually like about this song? And at the time, I obviously didn't know all these things. I just knew what I liked, but I didn't necessarily know why I liked it.
The technicalities of it.
Yeah, or like your ear just becomes, over time, learns or gets used to all these things, right? So that first experience was such a learning experience, of course, because I'm listening to songs and I'm trying to identify, do I like the guitar in this? Do I want a guitar in mine? Like,
can we take away the strings first?
Yeah.
Can you? Oh,
exactly.
You're that articulate.
Yeah, and even just using different, plugins or keyboard sounds or different types of keyboards. It was like a whole new world for me.
Wow.
It was so... And music is so limitless, like even now with production and what you can create. That's what I love about music. There's literally no end to it.
And during those, like the first recording, and you've already like known a lot, it just made me realize in that story that it's your experience playing different instruments that makes you like understand things that you can't even explain.
Yeah.
And because of like by that time you're really into dancing. I think that's and everything in recording is new to you. Like you wanna, it's like a playground. It's
exactly.
like a new canvas.
Yes.
And you have all the paint in your hands.
Exactly. That's how it feels. And even bringing back in the dancing, right? So because I'm coming at it as a dancer, even drum patterns, because in dancing, you're hitting all the drum beats, or I knew what 808s were because of dance. Like the choreographer will be like, this is on an 808, or we do this elbow on a hi-hat. So I was learning musicality.
The drops, yeah.
Yeah. So even now to this day, me being a dancer also affects how I create, because I think, before this chorus, like as a dancer, I would want to hear this because this is what I would want to hit. So that comes into play as well. It's interesting now that we put it that way, because I didn't really think about my music instruments being kind of, even though it is music, of course, I didn't really think about how it affected how I hear production and those things until this conversation. So.
And that's what's happening recently, right?
Yeah.
We'll go more of that later. But yeah, So I've learned so much more about you as a kid, you being a Filipina in Australia and being introduced in music, instruments,
Yeah.
dance, and it's just so overwhelming at that age. You learning a lot of things.
Yeah. When I think back on it, it really does sound like a lot. But I enjoyed it. I really did.
So it's like you're like a kid being introduced into different toy stores every time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's enchanted, or it's like a big toy kingdom.
Yeah.
Diba?
Seriously.
Every time. But yeah, we have so much more questions. We'll just take a break. You're in your favorite podcast. This is DOUGBROCK Radio. Yo, Cybergang, maraming salamat sa pagsuporta dito sa DOUGBROCK Radio Podcast. Kung hindi nyo pa napapanood yung iba pa namin mga episode, meron kaming 100 plus ng mga episode ng podcast. Check nyo lang din yung DOUGBROCK Radio Podcast playlist. Huwag nyo kalimutan mag-subscribe, mag-follow, at salamat palagi sa suporta nyo. Keep on winning. Yo, cyberspace, nandito pa rin kayo sa paborito niyong podcast. Ito pa ang DOUGBROCK Radio. Kasama pa rin natin si Lara Andalio. Nag-break lang tayo, nag-load lang ako ng English, naubos na. But yeah, going back to your story. So, you learned this music, dancing, and then all this. Tell us about how you became professional in doing music, because you were signed at a very young age.
Yeah.
You were scouted by big labels. And now you're independent. But
Yes.
before that, what was the feeling? You're still studying, you're doing your art, and
Yeah.
then you were approached by a label?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was quite interesting because I had put out 3 singles, and it was the third and second single that kind of started bubbling locally.
All singles out on SoundCloud.
Yes.
Okay.
I eventually put them on DSPs.
Okay.
Can't remember if it was the same timing, but it eventually went on DSPs. And
Is it under a label or just a DIY platform?
DistroKid.
Okay. You uploaded it. Yeah.
Yeah, so bare bones, literally just YouTubed. How do I upload my song to?
Oh, I just need the credit card, and I just need to to sign up for a year, and then I can
Yeah.
put my song in all distributing platforms.
Exactly.
I want my song on Spotify,
Exactly.
Apple Music. Let's do it.
So that's what I did. And then it was really when radio started picking up on it, because in Australia there's this competition for high school students through a radio station where they play, high school student songs on radio, and then they choose a top, they choose a top 5, or I can't remember the exact rules, but I got an email while I was at school or at dance saying, we're going to play your song on Triple J tonight. And I don't, again, think I understood the gravity of what it meant to be played on radio nationally, nationwide. And I still remember the street that I was parked on when I first heard my song on radio. But it being on radio, of course, made labels their ears perk up, because they haven't heard of me, or this is the first time they're really hearing of me. I don't have a manager. I don't have anything. Who is this girl? That's kind of where it starts. So then I start doing label meetings, and as I was just saying, I would go with my dad in my school lunch breaks. My dad would come from his office, pick me up from the dance studio. I'd quickly go have a 40 minute coffee or lunch with these label A&Rs, and then go back. And
Go back to class.
yeah, literally. And that's how it all kind of started. And it was a few months of that until I eventually chose which label I wanted to sign with, because I had a few offers. And that's really what happened. Yeah.
When did you sign?
2017 or the start of 2018, around that time.
Okay. And then it was how long?
Oh, sorry. It was May 2018, I know.
Okay.
And then I got out of my deal 2023 around March.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how many projects did you do?
I dropped a debut mixtape and debut EP, so 2. And then I think there was 2 singles.
How many songs per project?
I think it was both 6 and maybe 3 singles from the top of my head.
Okay.
Around 15, I
15
think.
songs.
Yeah, something like that.
For the course of 5 years, and pandemic included.
Pandemic, exactly.
Okay. So tell us about the feeling when you got those offers and you eventually pick the label that's going to that you're gonna work with.
Yeah.
Like, what was the feeling back then?
It was honestly so surreal for me and kind of went by so fast because being a dancer, I was already, how do I say this? Because I was getting a lot of rejection as a dancer and not in auditions or just because of how I look. Like I wasn't necessarily getting rejection, but I could tell where things were going. Does that make sense? Like it's going to be hard in this industry to do this and that and with how I am and how I look.
You have the understanding already.
Yeah, I already have the understanding, which was a bit defeating. It was internally and I was beating myself up a little bit. So then when music started kind of popping off in a way, or I'm having these little wins, even just from like, oh, like I've got emails from labels or now my song's on radio or Complex just posted me. Like, you know, there's all these new little wins that kind of keep you moving and moving in the right direction. It became exciting. You know, dance was a thing that I did every single day. You train, it's grueling. So music, having these small wins became really exciting. And for some reason, at the start, everything just was working. Like I can't explain it any other way. Like even with Complex posting me, I didn't reach out. Like they just posted my song in a thing. I don't know why. I still to this day
and how
and how. But like I had Complex Australia, Complex UK, but I don't know how everything was happening. So everything was just naturally happening. And that's what felt really good about it. And that's what made me keep going in that direction. But when I eventually signed, again, because of my background, I had the understanding that when I sign this dotted line, that's when the work begins. This isn't the win necessarily. Like, I don't just sign this line and then everything works.
It's going to be harder.
Yeah.
Because someone has expectations from you already.
Yeah, and just...
It's not you alone anymore.
Yeah, and also, you know, with the traditional system of music industry, right? Record labels are kind of what you, quote unquote, need to become a bigger artist, right? So to me, signing the record deal was me realizing... or thinking, now I have a chance to now really do this. That's how I saw it. I never saw it as the prize to be won.
Or now that I have a label, everything's going to be done by them.
Exactly. I never thought that way. And my main reason for signing at the time, because again, I don't think I really understood the gravity of what it meant to sign to a record label. You hear it in movies all the time, right? Oh, record deal. But at the time for me, I wanted to sign because I didn't know anyone in music. I didn't know the managers. I didn't know producers. So to me, it was like, okay, if I sign, you know, people will take me seriously in a way and will want to work with me. And then I'll meet people. That's really the main reason why I did it at the start, if I'm being completely honest. Yeah.
Like a machinery. Like
a tool. Like,
yeah, a tool.
Yeah, because I really didn't know anyone. I really didn't.
Plus, it's, you know, it's becoming like bigger.
Yeah.
So you have you need a team to basically like do the business for you.
Yeah.
And okay, and then you basically released 2 projects and singles.
Yeah.
Tell us about doing things during the pandemic. Like how did you navigate into doing this music thing?
It was hard, but I was already like, I can record at home. I use Logic. I write my music myself. I co-write now with, you know, creatives that I like, but at the core, like I don't need, quote unquote, need someone else to create music. I can do that myself. So in terms of the process, it didn't hinder my creative process because I can still write. I can still do these things at home. How I think the pandemic changed my my lifestyle, I could say, and how it affected my writing is I started going through writer's block before the pandemic. And then once the pandemic hit, I realized I need to live way more life so that I have things to pull from, because I've always been, as you can kind of hear, a bit of a workaholic, even in just, you know, even though it wasn't work, just my upbringing of learning instruments and learning new things. So I was constantly learning and training, and rather than, you know, going out with my friends or doing like the quote unquote normal things teenagers are doing. And the pandemic made me realize that those are the things I need to be doing to be able to like have those things to draw from. I started journaling in the pandemic, which has been like a game changer for me, because through journaling, I was starting to journal every day. I realized all these like internal things we've even touched on, like the insecurities of being Asian in, you know, a predominantly white country. Like I started unpacking those things, which also helped the writing flow better. So it's almost like an unlock is how I felt
unloading.
Yeah, because I have this song called Year 3000 from the EP, the debut EP, and that song was
What's
about
the title?
Year 3000.
Year 3000.
And that song was, I explain it as a song that I've wanted to write for 5 years, but it only came out in the like it creatively only came out of me in the pandemic. And I honestly think it was because of the journaling and because of that unpacking that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So the pandemic overall, to be honest, creatively, I was good. Like I wrote the project then, but in terms of the business, that's a completely different story. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now your side. Let's go back.
Yeah.
Who are the musical your music influences? Like on playing music and or like on singing.
Yeah.
Who are these people that you look up to, or do you even like dreamt of one day I'll have a collaboration with that artist?
I think as an artist, Kehlani was my first really big influence and inspiration in a way, because at the time she was also identified as bisexual, and I had never seen an artist who identified openly that way.
Mm-hmm.
And being bisexual, seeing that also validated or reassured me that like, oh, I can still do this by being who I am. And then she made, you know, she would dance on stage. She does R&B. Because I also, as an artist, want to be known as a performer, a live performer. I know there's some artists that prefer the recording or the writing process. They don't really like the shows or vice versa. I'm definitely someone who likes the shows at the forefront. So people like Janet Jackson, Ciara, like, and now like Doja Cat, someone like that. Like I want to be a performer at the core.
Okay. And then during this time that you're learning music, let's go back to that.
Yes.
When you were learning music, like, do you envision that one day I want to perform in front of thousands of people, or you just just playing it makes you happy?
The instruments?
Yeah.
I never imagined myself playing those instruments for people.
More of like being the main act, like being the main vocal person. That's already your vision back then?
Yeah, like
the singer?
To be honest, I was just shy about it, but I always wanted that. I deep down wanted that, but again, there's no tangible path to that. So as a kid and a teenager, you don't really know. You're a bit scared to say it. And for me, I was backup dancing for, you know, the teenagers on Australia's Got Talent, for example.
Okay.
So it was always interesting because when I would do things like that, I would go, oh, but I kind of want to be, or I
don't want to be the backup.
Yeah,
I want
or
to be
backing vocals like on shows like that.
Wow.
And I'm like, but I wouldn't say it out loud, but when I'm on stage, I can feel it. Like I'm
at
like,
the back of your head.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like a pulling feeling, like you just want to be in that place.
Okay, fast forward.
Yeah.
Tell us like this one performing experience that you can like tell us a story about. Like, when was the first time that you performed in a public audience?
As a singer, as an artist?
As a singer.
The first time I ever did it was when I was 16, if I'm going back to the very first time.
Okay.
And I still remember exactly how I felt from that show. Like, I was like, oh, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. I knew it was in a pub. There was hardly anyone there, but I still was there.
How did you sing in a pub at 16?
True. I'm not gonna lie. Like, even when I was in high school, I would do cover gigs where I would like sing in pubs and stuff. I guess, shouldn't be.
Okay.
But I did do that stuff. Yeah.
See, you're doing it as a profession without you understanding that you're already doing it as a professional.
Yeah. But like
I
that.
admire that. I think that's how you breathe art.
Yeah.
Because you don't have any place to play.
Yeah.
Basically. Plus, I think going back.
Yes.
I think it helped you also without having like a sibling.
Yeah.
It helped you like understand what you want more or faster
because I had to figure it out myself.
Yes, because like for me in my instance,
yeah.
Oh, he's doing this. I don't want that. So I know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
But you have to do this. I don't want this, and then do this and that. That's the same thing that you were saying earlier, that you want to have an older sibling so that they can commit the mistakes.
Yes.
Smart. but still you don't have, so
yeah,
you have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, we're jumping into discussions, but that's the first ever gig.
Yeah.
And then you understood that this is what I want to do. And then tell us about stories wherein it's about you having confusion if you still want to pursue it, but what made you like what gave you the decision that no, fuck it, I'm still gonna do it no matter what? They had that like the lowest point of your music wherein
I think if it's overall, not just that time period.
Yeah, of course.
It's definitely like the end of my deal.
Okay.
Yeah, because obviously when you're signed for like the length of time that I was, you're kind of in this world like of the people that control what comes out, and like just naturally that's the system of how these things work. And you kind of forget that that's just its own bubble, right? So it can feel quite limiting, and like when you're told no or when things can't happen the way you want them to, it becomes defeating. Like it feels like a bit of a losing game in a way. But I've honestly, hand on heart, have never had a moment where I'm like, I'm done, or I even think about not doing this. Like I've literally never had that.
Good for you.
There's no other thing that I'm doing.
This,
I promise
you're
you.
100% sure.
I promise you. And if something happens and for some reason I lose my voice, I will be dancing. And if I can't dance, then I'll act. And if I can't act, I will paint. Like there's no...
Or write a song.
Yeah, like
be
there's...
a songwriter. Okay.
There's no...
No plan B.
No.
It's artist. That's it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
So you realized that at 16.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about how about let's jump into you being a Filipina.
Yes.
Back at it again.
Yeah.
Every time you're here, like recently,
Yes.
like in the first week that you spent here from December 2nd. How do you feel about the Philippines? Like its music, its culture today, our internet consumption, the traffic, like everything.
You know what's crazy? I just realized I haven't told you this. So when I was here last time, I was telling the boys and they were freaking out about this story. I was here with my tour manager and he just went to 7-Eleven and there was music playing at the 7-Eleven and he really liked it. So he asked the guy just packing the shelves, what's this song? And it was Have Abi. And then he came back to me and he was like, I just heard this really fire song. Like, we need to search this guy up and listen to his music. Like, I'm telling you, like, you're going to love it. And then I played it and he was the first artist out here that made me go, oh, like this music is actually like being done right out here. And because in Australia, my perspective of the Philippines music scene, right, is only from my parents, what my parents have told me. Or what I kind of have stumbled on TikTok or whatever it is. But really, my parents tell me about, you know, they love R&B, but they like power ballads and they look like this and blah, blah, blah. Like, so that's what I thought.
The image of the belters.
Yeah, that's what I thought was really going on here still. So then to have that moment where I go, and also the numbers, like how crazy the numbers were already. It's it made me go, oh, well, there's like an actual scene here. That's when I knew that I need to keep coming back because there's really a scene here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good example, huh? Coincidence, huh?
Right.
Okay. Oh, and then so that's your understanding.
Yeah.
Like, there's a very good scene in here. How do you feel about like pushing your art here in your homeland?
It's very
Because technically you're an international artist. You were signed with a major label in Australia. You're now independent.
Yeah.
Internet is very an easy access for everybody. Technically Australia is just 2 hours away. Sydney is just 2 hours different from our time zone. And then actually part of Australia, which is in the western part, is as the same time zone in the Philippines. So technically, if you're gonna run your art here, it's more feasible.
Yeah.
You're not too far away, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an 8-hour flight, which isn't that long in context, right? So I think
I went to Abra the other day. I was in Abra. It's in Ilocos region. And it's like 8 hours away. So
right?
See? Right?
Exactly. And even like Perth for us, I think that's like a 5-hour flight from Sydney.
Australia is so big, no?
Yeah.
It's 21 times bigger than the Philippines.
I think Manila's population is the population of all of Australia, which is also a whole other thing to talk about because obviously the population here and the fandoms
the
the
consume power.
Yeah, like there's so many people who want to consume music and content.
Plus, it came from you already. Everybody here looks like you, but you're different now. So why not, right?
But see, this is what's been interesting about starting to be here in the music scene. Because if I'm just being completely transparent,
sure.
I wasn't sure how I'd be received here because I also, as much as I am full Filipino, I'm still born and raised in Australia and clearly sound different. I have different perspectives, I'm sure, like on certain things. So it's been interesting. Even when I first came here in December for my first show in Manila, I had to ask my dancers who were from the Philippines, who I just met, a question because in my set I have this song that is queer and I usually talk about it. But I didn't even know am I allowed to say the thing?
Is being queer open in here?
There's so many things that I'm still learning and you know what I mean? So there's obviously differences, but I am overall so excited to be here. And like I was kind of telling you before, I want to be a part of it. I don't want to just come here, do things like this and not actually be in the scene and know the people and know the culture and know the people who have paved the way.
You want to pay respect as well.
Yeah.
You want to acknowledge them, right?
Exactly. Like I met JR the other day as well. And I know that people say he's like the king of R&B here, and there's all these different people that I don't want to just come here to come here. Do you know what I mean? It's not that to me.
And I think just because we have a lot of consuming power, no, it's me understanding your story right now. It made me think that you're a real artist. Like when I ask you, what's your plan B? If I can't dance, I'm gonna paint. If I can sing, I'm gonna dance. Diba?
Yeah.
Parang there's no other way but to create art.
And like we spoke about before about being independent now, right? The things that I do as a manager or artist manager of myself, it's like, if I didn't love what I do as much as I do, there's no way I would even have the patience to do all the other things that aren't really like my passion or my role. Do you know what I mean? Because you know firsthand what it's like to be a manager, right? Like I'm not very passionate about artist management, but the fact that I still show up and I do these things because I want to serve the art is so telling to me, because that's not, artist management isn't my passion, but because it's serving my passion,
you gotta learn it. You gotta do it.
Yeah, and I have no issue. I have no complaints about doing that work because it's the work that needs to be done.
And the good thing about it, you know how to do it.
Yeah.
You know how to do it. You know how to protect your interests. You know how to take care of your art.
That's one thing. Now I've learned a lot. So
You gotta wear different hats.
Yeah, I like to say it'll be harder to fool me when when someone tries to, because I know now quite a lot. I'm not saying I know everything, but experiencing firsthand the different conversations that you have to have with different types of people in the music industry, like whether that's tour promoters, festivals, or
booking agents,
agencies, publicists, PR. Like I've had, a wide range of those different conversations. So I feel even with music videos or setting up music videos, all these different things, like I just feel confident that I have the tools that I need now. That's what it is, really.
Okay. What's your, now that you're fully independent, can you share us a bit of your plans in music moving forward?
If I'm being completely honest, I'm just going with the days.
Okay.
Like, because it's only been my first year being independent, I didn't want to put too much pressure on how to do it, because I don't have a process yet, if that makes sense. I don't have a system that I know works and a system that I know works that I can repeat. It's really trial and error right now for me. I need to, how do I say it? As much as I am a long-term thinker, when you are being independent, newly independent, you just have to it's the failing thing again. You have to just do things and see, does this work? Does this not work? And that's where I'm at. So as long as I'm consistently releasing music right now, music that I like, the way that I can sustainably do it and market it the way, like on social media or whatever, that's really what I'm focused on. Of course, I've got like an EP dropping next year, my first independent project. So there's things, but in terms of the process, I don't really have,
you don't want to overthink it yet.
Yeah. And I just want to naturally gravitate towards different people that feel right. Like you were saying before, like that's the most important thing to me, because being with a label again, how do I word it? When you're with a label, you need to, you don't really have control over the people that become a part of your team. And because they're like salaried, like they work for the company. Now they need to work for you from 9 to 5, right? Whereas when you're completely independent the way that I am now, and I just have a booking agent in Australia, but otherwise that's it. I really listen, like the gut thing, I really listen to myself and my gut about people and the energy. That's the most important thing, because I think naturally when you connect with people and have genuine conversations and connections, that will naturally bring you to where you need to be. That's how I like to do it. And now that I'm independent, I can do that. And I just want to see where that leads me. Those steps, really.
That's brave. That's brave. And at your age, but obviously you have so much experience and you had a lot of conversations. That's why, it tells how you speak and how you tell things. It really tells that you know a lot already. Not everything, but a lot already, to at least protect your interests.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right about that. And that's why most of the artists that are doing really, really great here in the Philippines right now, they're operating independently.
Yeah.
So that's very good. That's very good. We have more questions. I think I want to know more of the process of you doing music.
Yeah.
More of the process of how do you tell us, walk us through you making like one song. What's the concept about or what's your thought process on creating a music from start to finish?
Usually with me, if I'm in a studio with a producer, if we cook something from scratch, which is usually what happens, I'll like to get the production to a point where there's a structure, not necessarily fully fleshed out, but just so whether that means the pre-chorus, I need less drums, and then the chorus just have a bit more there, so that when I go into the booth or I just freestyle, because that's how I usually work, I can just know where the sections are. That's really all I need, but I will freestyle and do melody passes. That's usually how I work. So I don't really like humming too much before, unless something naturally is there and I can just voice note it. But otherwise I like to just like let the beat marinate in my body and just keep listening to it, and then I get onto the mic and do melody passes and kind of like a puzzle. Oh, this sounds like the chorus, this sounds like the pre, and then to me the lyrics come after that. I usually don't like to have, I like to let the music and the melody from the production guide what I think it should be about. That's usually how I am. So melody first.
It's nice to know that you like freestyling, you do freestyle recording, plus you write on the spot. That's very good. Okay, so how long on each project, how long would it take to finish one project for you? Or depends on your process?
Yeah, because I think, again, with being with the label and then COVID, it kind of changed things.
So you're still learning your new process as an independent.
Seriously,
Okay, I get
because
it.
even now,
You're a bit lost, right? Because that's 5 years of building something and then
that
done.
whole system, you don't have it anymore, right?
Yeah.
Now it's cool though, because the songs that I'm releasing and have released in the past year of being independent, it's the quickest time from the birth of the song to releasing it. Like, you know, some songs that were on my project I made 2 years before they came out, or things like that. Whereas now I'm trying to think, High Standards, one of the singles that's off my EP that's coming out next year. I released that in August, but I think that I first got sent the beat like a month and a half before that, or 2 months. And then it was out with a music video and everything, because I just resonated with it and I wanted it out. That wasn't the plan.
Okay.
But because I
this
liked it.
is my first single.
Because I liked it, it came out. That's different for me. The fact that I can do that now.
But I think you're more in control.
Yes.
And that's a very good feeling.
Yes.
As an artist.
Yes.
And that's very empowering.
Yeah.
So keep it up.
And even what's interesting now, it's focusing on the independent side of things, is I am actually getting a lot of the milestone wins now.
Milestone.
But by myself, which is such an interesting thing, because I think when you're signed to a label, they'll say things like, oh, you need to do X, Y, Z before you can get a playlist cover, or before you can get this show, but then I've been independent and then I'm getting these things without even having a connection at Spotify or something like that. I remember the first time I got a cover of a playlist in Australia, I woke up to it and I asked my distributors, like, did we do, like, because it was for a song that had come out like 2 months before. So, you know, usually with playlists, it's around a new release, like you release and then the cover. And even they were like, this is super rare. Like, we don't know what's going on. So that makes me go, so you can get these things without having, do you know what I mean? Like, these things actually do happen when you just keep working and there's consistency.
I believe like they can like mediate things for you, but like DSPs like Spotify and all this, they actually is like giving flowers to the artist that is actually working hard, that is actually has results. Even if you're independent and even if you don't have a label, if they can get a PR kit from you, if they can get a picture from you, they'll go to your page, they'll crop a photo of it and they'll still put it on their playlist. That's how, I think that's their way of telling artists that we see you. Yeah. We hear you. Yeah. And we're with you.
But I'm only just learning that, right?
So that's very good.
It's interesting though, and that's given me confidence.
It's a very big win.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. It's giving me the confidence that, okay, I can do this and I am doing this. And because, you know, there was a fear for sure, an insecurity of being signed for 5+ years and having a certain standard of how I like things or how it sounds, how it's mixed and mastered, how the rollout is or whatever it may be. So my first fear and insecurity going into independent releasing is I want to make sure the standard stays the same. Like, I don't want it to feel like, oh, we can tell she's independent now. Like, you know, there's less budget, there's less this, whatever it is. That was kind of at my fear. And then for my first song independently to stream better than what I had done, you know what I mean? Like that's when I said, no, I can do this. Yeah.
That statement is very empowering for all the artists. So if you don't have like offers, if you don't have like tour managers, if you don't have like any hit ups, if you feel like you want to perform, just keep on doing it, because the universe will recognize that, and eventually they will reward you, and you will be surprised, and you will tell yourself, see, I've done it.
Consistency is the key.
Yep, that's a big factor.
Without that, that's it. You need to have that, because especially in this day and age with TikTok and Instagram and attention spans, it needs to be that way.
The attention span is very, very short. There's a new artist every fucking day.
Yep.
There's a new song every minute of the day.
Yeah.
Competition everywhere.
Exactly.
So being consistent, being there all the time, it puts you way ahead of your competition.
So that's literally my main focus right now, is just finding my system of doing everything consistently, like efficiently. Like what is the process that needs to happen for me to be able to drop a song every month or every whatever it may be? Like that's what I'm striving for right now, is finding those systems, because that's what it's about. We can hold art and we can say, let's wait for better timing and all of that. But I think within this market now, putting out music, especially as an independent artist, the more products you have out, basically, the more chances there are. That's how I see it, at least.
Plus, uploading a song or putting out the content doesn't require you to pay anything.
Yeah.
So why not submit a entry? Because the more entries, the more chances of winning.
Seriously though, that's how I feel about TikTok and Instagram, all that, because when it was first becoming a thing, the reels and vertical content, I think all artists were a bit, they didn't want to play into it. We all kind of wanted to be like, let's just let the music speak for itself. And of course that is a part of it, but you also have to market the product, right? So I as an independent artist, when I realized, okay, what is the main way that I can get my music out to people? What is that? And it was social media. Like at the end of the day, it's social media. So then I go, well, then now I have to double down on social media. Like there's no choice. Again, if you don't do that, then you're not serving the music. It's similar to how I was talking about being my manager. Like, am I necessarily passionate about artist management, or posting a TikTok every day, 3 times a day? Not necessarily, but if that's going to serve the art, then that's what's going to happen. So I'm finding my groove being independent, and I'm enjoying it. That's the thing that I'm loving about it.
I think that's what's important about your process. Wherever you're at in life, enjoy it.
Yeah.
We'll do more, we'll talk more, and I'll ask more questions with Lara. This is your favorite podcast. We'll just have a break. DOUGBROCK Radio. Yo, Cybergang, maraming salamat sa pagsuporta dito sa DOUGBROCK Radio Podcast. Dahil sa mga suporta nyo, patuloy namin nagagawa yung mga gantong klaseng content. Check out nyo rin yung iba pa namin mga programa. Huwag nyo kalimutan mag-subscribe at i-follow kami sa lahat ng socials namin, DOUGBROCK TV. Keep on winning. Yo, Cyberspace, you're here in your favorite podcast. This is DOUGBROCK Radio. We're still with Lara and Dalio. Nag-load ako ulit ng English. So, going back, I want to ask more about your live experience, your performances, aside from that show where you perform in the pub. Of course, definitely, you grew your audience.
Yeah.
You had breaks here and there. You have shows here and there. Tell us about the tour, the tours that you've done, and then tell us more about the experiences.
Yeah, so the first, I would say, bigger tour that I did was for Blast, BLXST. Blast,
yes,
because that's how some people say it. It's funny because when I was in America saying it, people are like, who's that? And I'd have to go, oh, Blast. But that was an amazing first one, to be honest. And that's really when I felt the fruits of my labor, because then I realized, being in those audiences, that people really do listen to my music in Australia because you never know. It's a bit of a hit or miss in terms of the live side of things in Australia and the audiences. But Blast was amazing as well. He's been super supportive for me throughout this process and being independent and helped me out in LA a bit. Actually, my last single, I Might, was produced by one of his producers and guitarists.
Wow.
So to have the artists that I've got to tour with, I'm lucky that all of them have been like amazing people as well. So those relationships, again, like I really nurture and cherish those tour relationships because you know how it's like on the road. You have a unique experience together and these shared memories that you can't really explain. There's like an energy on each tour. Would you say that too? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, different city, different set of people, different set of audience. It's all a learning curve, but it's all very good type of exciting memory.
Exactly. And the team that you tour with, you guys share that.
Yes.
That's what I think is so special about it. So I did that one. And as I was just saying, I did sold out earlier this year in Australia, sold out festival.
Yep.
And it was Australia's first kind of
R&B-esque
festival that we've had.
Because EDM scene is very big in Australia.
Yeah.
Plus, the bands and the rock scene.
Exactly.
That's mostly the festivals there.
So this was a big step for our
R&B-ish.
Yeah, for our music scene as well, because having those artists, people actually didn't even believe that it was real. They didn't think that
who headlined the show?
It was Summer Walker, Bryson Tiller, Party Next Door, and there was like Tinashe,
Wow.
Lucky Day, so many people to be honest, and people that I've looked up to. So then being able to meet everyone and be respected, that's another thing because I was the only female artist from Australia on that lineup. So, backstage and everything, it was again one of those moments where I felt I can really do this and people are supporting me and seeing me as their peer. Because people backstage and other artists would come up to me and they know that, I'm not gonna lie, I'm the first artist on the lineup, right? Because I am the Australian and it's superstars on that lineup.
Of course.
And they know that. But they all go, we love how even though you're first, you put the exact same amount of effort and energy into your show as we
the main
do.
acts.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just I think behind the scenes I got my flowers and those things really keep you going. You would know that feeling when you get that reassurance and validation of okay, I am doing this how I should be. Same thing with Blast as well on that first tour. When we were messaging after, he sent me like this big message just basically saying you don't even realize that you're setting and laying the foundations for everything you're building. You're already doing it. You're paving the way for greatness. Like you just have to keep doing it and you're already doing it. So
coming from him.
Yeah. So it's always reassuring from these types of people that everyone kind of just tells me, keep doing what you're doing. It's just a matter of time. So I think now I know that and it feels good. And then, Kiana Lede, I did that last year as well. And she's the reason that I got to even come to the Philippines and do my first show, which now looking back on it is such a pivotal moment, to be honest. And I'm so grateful for Kiana for bringing me on. Like she posted on her story too to make sure, like come early for Lara and, really rode for me to make sure that
you meet your Filipino audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And make your Filipino fans.
Exactly. And that tour was also an all-female team, like her manager, tour manager, which I've never, in music, especially
that's hard to put in together,
especially in like R&B hip hop land. It's super rare. So to have that,
and it's a male dominated industry.
Yeah. So that was a really beautiful tour, especially that was the first tour that I booked by myself as an independent artist with no agent, no manager, no label. And it just came through my DMs on Instagram. And to, again, fruits of your labor. And then I'm releasing an independent song. And then I announced that festival at the same time. And that's when people in Australia started being like, wait, who's her publicist? Who's her PR? Who's her agent? And I would love
who's this girl?
I would love when people would ask me, like, industry people at events, like, who's doing your
That's
blah,
the
blah,
moment,
blah.
guys. Nice to meet you.
And then I'm just like, it's all me.
Nice to meet
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So it's being independent has been really empowering.
Mm-hmm.
And that Kiana tour, doing that Philippine show was such an eye opener for me. Because again, going back to the me doing all this in the Philippines, I didn't realize how, because I'm from Australia. I'm an Australian artist, but I'm Filipino, right? So I didn't know if people would really know me out here. But then as soon as I was walking behind the stage to go to the side stage, I could hear them chanting my name. And that's when I was like, oh, like there's actually love out here. And I already know that in the Philippines, there's a really solid fandom and fan base. But to really experience that in my first show, it's mind blowing to me that that's how I was received from the start. And it's thanks to, again, like this is what I'm saying about the genuine connections and relationships, because if I didn't have that with Kiana, then Kiana wouldn't have brought me to the Philippines. And then if that show didn't happen, and my visas weren't approved, because I was actually meant to do the rest of the Asia dates as well, but the performance visa would take too long. I got to stay in the Philippines for longer, and that was a blessing in disguise. And now I get to come here. Like each thing leads to each other, and that's what I think is so beautiful about following those genuine connections and relationships. And that's what I love about live shows and touring, like the energy exchange you have with the audience and the fans, but also those behind the scene moments that you get to share with that team that you're touring with.
How was that performance in your Philippine show?
I had some technical difficulties, I'm not gonna lie, but in terms of the actual experience, I will never forget that feeling, because it's one thing to do shows in Australia and you get to do them quite often, I guess, but to do one in the motherland, and again, the audience all look like me. Like it's these such simple things to other people, but to me, it's
home.
It's
home.
Yeah. And Filipinos are different. Like the way that people in the Philippines show up for people.
Yes. Plus how they express their
love.
Their love. How passionate they are in expressing like their awesomeness on each performance. That's actually, Lara, that's my ROI. Whenever we do shows on a different place.
Yes.
Where I can bring the boys, where I can bring the team.
Yeah.
And it's their first time, and then I get to make I get to do things na they get to experience the culture, they get to taste the local food and delicacies.
Yeah.
But the whole ROI is when everyone or most of the people is, appreciating the performance.
Yes.
And I get that genuine feeling that we're doing our job to entertain them.
Yeah.
That's my ROI.
Yeah.
More than the amount of the paycheck, more than if we're flying business class or if we're just in a van or whatever. The feeling of those audience coming home, that's a core memory to them, and I'm having that feeling also that they're gonna treasure that moment for the rest of their lives. I'm gonna sleep that night happy. That's my ROI.
I feel the exact same way. That's why I love live shows, and that's why I am so passionate about being a performer, because like my first ever concert that I watched was Beyonce.
Wow, the standards. First ever concert. Okay.
See what I'm saying? Like when you watch Beyonce first, and in my head, I was just like, oh, so this is what a concert is. This is how they are. So my standard was quite high for a first concert, hey. But
plus, we forget to mention, you grew up in the Sydney Opera House. But yeah, I mean, the standards is there. But now it's the simple things, right? It's like it's them relating to your music.
Exactly.
It's them singing your lyrics.
And for me, a lot of what I write about and what I was writing about, especially earlier on as a teenager, like these are songs that I needed when I was 14
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So like to then hear fans whether it's on DMs or in real life, saying that this song helped them through their insecurities, or all these different stories.
The positive notes.
That makes everything, all the things you put up with being in the music industry,
That's it.
everything else fades away because that's why you're doing it.
Those are the moments.
Definitely.
Those are the moments.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about now that you're independent, like how do you see yourself working with artists that has record labels?
Oh, interesting question. I haven't been asked that. Yeah.
Because the way I see it,
Yeah.
labels would think, oh, this girl is independent.
Mm.
Two things. Are we gonna sign that girl? Or that artist is gonna influence our artist not to sign with us again.
Yeah.
You
yeah,
see?
Yeah.
But it's not about that really. It's about you understanding how to manage yourself. Because no one knows what Lara wants but her.
Yeah.
Right? So that's her way.
Yes.
But how do you see yourself working with like artists, male or female artists, that is, has a team behind them?
Yeah.
And Lara, who you got? My tour manager, my mom, and nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm everything. But yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah. In terms of collaboration with working with major label artists, I haven't really had, because I'm new to being independent, I've been so focused on just my music and building those numbers and building my brand just by myself. So I haven't actually had to have any of those like official interactions yet, but a lot of, especially in Australia, a lot of my friends are signed.
Oh yeah.
So, and some of them signed earlier and then became independent, or were independent then signed. So I think there's still this shared understanding of how it all works.
Yeah. Plus, I think nowadays,
Yeah.
like there are a lot of artists also who are signed that who has different plans. But at the end of the day, good music is good music.
Yep.
If that artist resonates to you and you resonates to that artist,
Exactly.
why not create a masterpiece together?
That's how I feel about collaboration now, especially being independent. Like, again, it goes back to the relationships thing. I can't just do a song with someone for the sake of it. Like, it needs to really be someone I genuinely get along with and like, and the music makes sense. Because I don't think good music comes out of anything but that.
Yes. Plus, it's also a big factor that record labels shouldn't like be a hindrance to a collaboration.
Yes.
Because most of the time,
Yeah.
oh, they're from a different label. Oh, they're not signed. Oh,
Yeah.
Guys, artists nowadays are smart. Everything that you are doing is in the internet. They
Yeah.
can also learn it. You're doing nothing different, to be perfectly honest. Coming from me, quote me
Yeah.
on it. Fight me.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
Don't.
Record labels, major or independent,
Yes.
should always be supporting their artists.
Facilitating.
Facilitating for whatever endeavors they want to do.
Yeah.
Because that's your job. And artists shouldn't be focusing on how can they get the paperwork done, how can I do this, on how can
Exactly.
what's the split is,
Yeah.
where are we going to record it, in your studio or in our
Yeah,
studio?
yeah.
It's your job to make it all easy for the artist.
Yes, I agree.
And there's a lot of artists that are signed for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
There's a lot of artists that are, happy with their record deals. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
But I can see that there is less opportunity being made just because it's not that open yet. Just create more collaborations.
Yeah.
Technically, that's what I'm trying to say.
I definitely agree with that.
Especially, now that I'm doing this podcast for 100 plus episodes already, and it's my first time to be talking to a Filipino artist that is born and raised in a foreign country that has this amount of passion about art. that, I want to see if you're watching this, if you know an artist, guys, tell them that the Philippines is a home for artists and just pursue it and don't stop because you'll always find an audience here in our homeland that will support you forever.
That's a big lesson.
Especially if you have a very good talent, diba? You should have the talent muna. You can play different instruments if you're not playing good.
That's step one.
That's step one. But yeah, I mean, label, not label, any support system shouldn't be a hindrance.
Yes, exactly.
For a possible collaboration.
Yeah. And I think that that's what's most exciting and empowering about being an independent artist now, because I also like the responsibility. I kind of like that there's no one else to blame but myself, whether things go right or wrong.
That's taking over basically with everything that you're doing.
When you're with a label, you have teams or whatever it is, like there's usually someone else you can blame for something going wrong or something, you know what I mean? Whereas when it's just you, if there's a problem, you need to solve it. There's no one else to, why didn't this happen? Why? It's all you. And I kind of love that because that, like you would know, the power's in your hands. You get to choose what the solution is. Because the solution, in my opinion, to like these problems, they're also like a chess move or a move in themselves, right? And when you've got teams or labels or whatever, like sometimes you don't like their solution to the problem. And you don't always necessarily have control over what that solution is. Whereas now, the freedom is there. And I guess that comes...
And you're loving it.
Yeah. I think like even talking about the fact that I don't have siblings, it made me realize that that's probably also where I got a lot of my independence from. Because like you said, like I had to work it out myself in a way. But because I am an independent woman, I think that's why I do like this kind of new era for me. And yeah.
That's your process.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen next. But one thing is for sure, you're handling it properly. You know what you're doing.
I think so.
And yeah, I mean, I know because I've experienced how you work. How you're doing, you being your manager. Like, am I talking to the manager or to the artist? It's
yeah.
I can feel it. Like there's so much effort being done.
I appreciate
and
that.
There's so much passion, there's so much fire that the team can't avoid. And we love it as well. That you want to share your story, you want to share your talent. And I think that's the most important part of being an artist.
Yes.
That knowing that if you have a team, good for you.
Yeah.
But there's no other soul that can save you and your art and your passion but yourself.
And only this is something that I've had to learn to understand as I've grown older, is only you know what you're really capable of.
True.
So even when I now understand that when you are with labels or you are talking to like people of power or something, not all of them are going to understand how big you see yourself or what you think you're capable of. Like people need to see tangible numbers and results for them to believe it. And
for sure.
I understand that now because not everyone's going to, the way that I operate and the way that I talk, I think sometimes can make people feel like I'm entitled or something because I know what I want, but that's just me backing myself. Like I know what I want and I know what I'm capable of. That's even now being independent, opportunities. Like in Australia, I feel like sometimes you have to fight for crumbs, for opportunities. Like people, there's not as many, so you need to fight for them a little bit. That's why when I got Kiana and it just came in my DMs.
Let's do it.
Like I almost was like, is there cameras somewhere? Am I getting pranked? Like
you almost can't believe it.
Yeah, but it's different when those opportunities come independently.
And the good thing about it, you know how to respond. Not react, but respond when the opportunity knocks into your door. Okay, let me ask you about how do you feel about the Philippine music industry overall? Like in the short span of time that you're here, plus a little bit of your research, plus the things that was told to you.
Yeah.
How do you feel about?
I think I'm still learning my bearings. Obviously, like you mentioned, I haven't had as much experience. But I can definitely see from my observations, there's like a shift happening. I feel like I'm witnessing the shift with people like Kev and, you know, even this whole thing, the fact that you guys run everything independently.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting because, again, from what I was told about this from my parents,
Of course.
I'm still adjusting to the fact that this is really how it is out here.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
100% of what they told me.
So I think, yeah, I'm still to be confirmed on everything because I'm still letting it all marinate, right? But I think that there is a shift happening and people are paving new ways, which is so exciting. And I think the Philippines people are going to be seeing things that they haven't seen before in the music industry.
We're breaking records recently. We're getting numbers that hasn't been
and breaking
reached
barriers,
before. Yep.
you know, even the taste of music and the quality, the
sonics.
Yeah,
Diba?
the range, like all of it. I think that there is a shift happening and it's so cool to witness.
It's for the better.
Yes.
The shift is, it's improving. It's a big scale. It's a big leap on improvement. I think overall.
Yeah.
Lara, what can you tell to the young artists like you before?
Yeah.
That is, unsure. For the artist that is, very passionate, but maybe for the artist that doesn't get the same support that you get. For the young artist that is being bullied.
Yeah.
For the young artists that are getting so much no's before their yes.
Yeah.
What's your message to these people?
Wow. I think in terms of advice, first up, I think trusting your gut is the biggest thing. And I know that sounds so simple. And I understand that trusting your gut, especially as a young female or a young person, right? You don't really have the backing because there's no evidence of when you trust your gut, things work out. You don't have that evidence yet. So trusting it doesn't feel natural. That feels natural once you have experience. So I would really, really try and focus on following your gut and reminding yourself only good things can come from doing what resonates with me. Even if that means that you think that, maybe it was an opportunity, like a show, for example, but it was for some reason you don't resonate with what that represents. But, there's lots of people there. Maybe it's good. Like, maybe I should do it. You will never be wrong for doing what feels right to you. Even if you can't tell yet, 10 steps ahead, you'll understand why that happened or why that no happened. Like, I feel so many things in my journey, even from my surgery. Like, that was such a low for me. But then you realize that's a blessing in disguise. But you don't realize till later.
In due time, you'll get it.
Exactly. But you can never do wrong by trusting your gut or speaking up for what you want as a creative and following through with what you want. Nothing is more important than allowing yourself and facilitating the art that you want to create. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to make art that resonates with other people. And to be honest, everyone can tell when it's not real, right? Like, we all know it. We can feel it. So at the core, if we don't do that, then what's the point?
Very good message. Okay. What's your message for the people who never stopped on supporting you, who supported you, who believed in you since day one, and to all those people who gave you validation when you yourself is unsure about yourself?
Day one supporters. I mean, in terms of Australia, like, shout out to the people in Perth for real, because I have a lot of OG fans in Perth. Like, when I'm saying OG, I'm talking like independent even before, like as a teenager. And when
before you even signed, you have Perth audience already?
Yeah. So when I went to Perth for the first time on the Sold Out Festival
I love
tour,
Perth, bro.
Shout out Perth. When we went to Perth and did that show for the first time, there were fans there that have been waiting for me to come there since I was 18, 17. And that,
Shout out to them.
yeah, for real. And again, I'm earlier on the day. Like, so for people to like really be coming out, it means so much to me. And I think what I'm really enjoying about the independent way right now is I'm really getting to learn and be in touch with my fans a lot more and really see how
You're more hands-on. with
yeah
things.
and you really realize that the fans, it's about the fans at the core. Like, those are the people.
No other reason. It's them.
Yeah, nothing happens without
Them. Yep. It's the fans always.
It's been so nice to be so connected with them and be doing more shows, because that is what it's about.
And your message to them is?
Oh. And my message to them is like, thank you so much. Thank you so, so much for being here for me through everything. Like, I know you guys will eat up whatever I make, because what I love is that you guys resonate with me, and that's what it's about. It's not about anything else. So shout out to you guys.
One last question.
Yeah.
Can we expect a Tagalog song from Lara soon?
You know what? People have asked me this, and as I said to you, I don't speak Tagalog, but I understand it.
Yes.
So I think the more that I come out here and low-key listening to Have Abi has like, because there's a bit of Taglish too.
Are you a Heb Abi enjoyer?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm loud and proud about it too.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like I'm learning through the songs
Yes.
too, which is another way of learning for me, obviously. Like, I feel like that helps me. And I think the more that I come here and hear it more, I think I just want it to feel organic when I do. Does that make sense? I don't want it to be a thing where I go, I'm gonna
It's too hard sell.
Yeah, like just to do it. I want it to feel like it called me to do it.
I think it's innate to you. Like, you coming here and just, understanding who paved the way, understanding who's the OGs, who to pay respect to. I think that's a very good ethics.
Thank you.
And you, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
if like some people, like some artists with good looks, with, with good talent would think, oh, it's easy to create a Filipino song. But when it's pilet, when it's like hard sell, when it's like not organic,
Yes.
you will feel it eh.
Yes.
And you might damage your reputation more than build it.
Yes.
And that's what good about Lara saying na, I want to do it like naturally. And out blatantly, I don't know how to speak Tagalog, but I can understand.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
respect that. I think that's being genuine.
Yeah, exactly. It's all comes from the same place with me. If it doesn't feel right, doesn't resonate, doesn't feel genuine, it doesn't make sense. And that's what I've
it's
loved.
a waste of time, actually.
Yeah, with the fans, like I keep saying, with the independent way, because I know that my fans actually really ride for me. It's not about one song or about one thing I've done. Like, it's about me, like as the person. And that is what's, I think, really cool about it. Because that's what I want to build. I want the community around it.
Ang galing mo.
Stop.
Anyways, you want to shout out anyone, your friends, family, team?
I mean, okay, shout out to my parents, because I feel like, big ups, because this conversation especially has like made me realize that a lot of who I am and the opportunities that I have, honestly, everything that I'm able to do is because of them.
Shout outs to you guys.
Honestly.
To your hardworking
Love
dad
you.
and to your very supportive mom. Guys, the violin that you bought,
Exactly.
very, very, very good.
Yeah, and shout out to like all the people from the Philippines and Filipinos around the world that already listen to my music or who are going to listen to my music now, because I feel such a strong connection, like you've kind of seen, like to my roots. Even though I was born and raised in Australia, there's this, even my mom, I think it's an international thing. Like it's a global thing. When you see Filipinos, it just straight away you feel
Kabayan!
Yeah. Even you know what? Someone was holding that up at Sold Out Festival, and I was reading it, and I'm like, yeah, Pinoy power. Like it's cool to just have that connection around the world. So shout out to you guys for real.
Yep. Shout outs to you guys. Yeah, I think my takeaway in this episode. First, shout outs to you, Lara.
Thank you.
It made me realize that there's so much more talent out there. And I'm seeing so much talent here. But seeing how passionate you are and how do you wanna run your business independently, that's a lot of courage. And I respect that a lot.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think the main gist of this episode is about you believing in yourself. That no matter how good you are, of course, there's always a possibility that you'll have a team that can optimize that potential. But without you understanding what you really want, that team is unnecessary. So always understand yourself.
Yeah.
May it be you understanding to manage your own, or you understanding to need a help from somebody else. The most important thing is you know yourself. And whatever thing that you're gonna be doing, it's always gonna show na alam mo yung ginagawa mo kasi kilala mo yung laman ng puso mo tsaka yung laman ng isip mo. So, yun. Pinaka-importante yung consistency. Kasi palaging may bagong papalit sa'yo, palaging may mas magaling, palaging may mas maganda, mas bogi, mas mataas yung boses, mas mabilis mag-rap. Palaging meron. Pero kung consistent ka, tsaka true ka sa sarili mo, makikita yun ng tamang tao na para sa'yo. Yun yung magiging panalo mo.
Slay.
Kita-kits tayo ulit next Sunday. Na-miss ko mag-Tagalog. Thank you, Lara. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Abangan nyo, si Lara, saan kanila makikita at saka mapapanood? Where they can search your music? Where can they see you?
So Lara and Dalio literally on all platforms. TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, all that. Yeah.
Makikita nyo siya sa mga susunod na festivals dito. Kita-kits tayo next Sunday. My name is DOUGBROCK. I'm with Lara and this is DOUGBROCK Radio. Thank you so much. Good
That
job.
was fire. Loved it.